Shalom, Shalom, and welcome to Yashar'al End-time Individual Decisions. Yes, my brothers and sisters, as end times ramp up, we will grow to realize that the person in the mirror must make the decision that he or she will be held accountable for by the Almighty Father Yahuah on Judgment Day. My name is Symmanayah, if you're tuning in for the first time, and this is the 8th installment of Yashar'al End-time Individual Decisions. Its focus is on cleaning words and language. Yes, you heard it, cleaning words and language. Again, I say welcome to you who are drawn by the Almighty Father Yahuah, to you who out of obedience, out of worship, out of pursuit of the Almighty Father Yahuah as a result of being drawn by him, are witnessing Yahusha being lifted up and drawing all men to himself, as it is written in John 12:32. With that said, cleaning words and language. Remember, O Yasharal, in order for there to be a language, communications begin with words. Over the years, we have witnessed many languages evolve. The scriptures inform us that there was once one single language, or as some may know it, as a pure lip. Abba Yahuah has always wanted us to lean on him. Let me stress again, he has always wanted us to lean on him, absolutely not on our own understanding, for the flesh war against the spirit. But man for many years have had the craving to want to be independent of Yahuah, the Almighty Father and Creator. We have sought to be like him in ways where we would want to separate ourselves from him because of our rebellious nature and action, thinking we will be as him. Who is aware that from the very beginning, Adam and Eve, who ate the forbidden fruit, they were deceived into thinking that they would be like the Most High Yahuah by obtaining the knowledge of good and evil. They were deceived also by one who used a crafty language to twist the meaning of life itself as it relates to communicating, as it relates to knowledge, as it relates to interpretation of words. For they interpreted the words of the enemy as something that would make them better, but indeed it did not. Allow me to share the following as we go into this subject: cleaning words and language. I want to share with you Genesis chapter 3, verse 1 through 5. And the serpent was more crafty than any beast of the field which Yahuah, the Almighty One, had made. And he said to the woman, is it true that the Almighty One has said, do not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, we are to eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, the Almighty One has said, do not eat it, nor touch it, lest you die. And the serpent said to the woman, you shall certainly not die, for the Almighty One knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes shall be open, and you shall be like the Almighty One, knowing good and evil. You see in this passage a demonstration of deceit and wickedness at its core. You see, my brothers and sisters, if we seek the life in this passage, truly one can see deception at hand, trying to cause man to think he can be independent of Yahuah, even like the Almighty Father. Let me also present the following as well. Genesis 11 chapter, verses 1 through 8. And all the earth had one language and one speech. And it came to be, as they set out from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar. And they dwelt there. And they said to each other, come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and they had asphalt for mortar. And they said, come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower whose top is in the heavens, and make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered over all the face of the earth. Then Yahuah came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. And Yahuah said, look, They are one people. They all have one language. And this is what they begin to do. And now they are not going to be withheld from doing whatever they plan to do. Come, let us go there and confuse their language, so that they do not understand one another's speech. And Yahuwah scattered them from there over the face of the earth, and they left off building the city. This is a passage that reflects what is known by many as the Tower of Babel. It is the origin of the many different languages. It is the fruit of man trying to make a name for himself. My brothers and sisters, though man was punished for his actions regarding pursuit of a name for himself and independence from the Most High Yahuwah, our loving and almighty Father promised discipline for his children since the days of old. He has created a plan that brings restoration. And we can only shout hallelujah if we truly understand what that means. Keep in mind, I mentioned Hebrews 12th chapter and Revelation 3:19 often, which speak about the discipline, the refinement that is promised by our Father, the Almighty One, Yahuwah. It confirms his discipline. There are no doubts in my mind, my brothers and sisters. The words and languages that we have grown accustomed to having, that we've been programmed to pursue, that we have indeed brought about division and separation among the children of Yahuwah. The words and languages that we have grown to use to communicate have become growingly wicked. So many interpretations and perceptions, even among us who may speak what we say is the same language. You see, the enemy wickedly seeks to divide the set apart ones. The Mashiach, Yahusha Mashiach, will bring division among those who are wicked versus those who are set apart. Make no mistake, there's a difference. Yashar'al, or Yasharal, though we are conflicted with many different languages, again, remember, language begins with words. And if we have grown astray, if we have introduced more and more words, more and more different languages across the planet, do you not think in the Most High's plan for correction and restoration that he will bring us back to a pure lip, a pure language, a language of one among his children? If you doubt these words, consider Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 8 and 9. Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 8 and 9. Seek the life in it, my brothers and sisters. It reads as follows. Therefore wait for me, declares Yahuwah, until the day I rise up for plunder. For my judgment is to gather nations, to assemble reigns, to pour out of them my rage, all my burning wrath. For by fire of my jealousy all the earth shall be consumed. For then I shall turn unto the peoples a clean lip, so that they all call on the name of Yahuwah to serve him with one shoulder. My brothers and sisters, I am compelled to believe the nature of man has been to race, and in many instances fabricate what they believe, what we believe represents the orders from the Almighty Father Yahuwah. This is wicked and evil. We must turn and lean into the Most High. We must seek to walk in the fullness of his spirit at all times. We must trust that it is he and he alone who will make his words alive and resonate within us directly in spirit and one towards another. I have witnessed individuals, O Yasharal, that have awakened to the truth. I have witnessed them being drawn into thinking they must learn what is promoted among many as the Hebrew language. I have witnessed people thinking that this is the pure lip that Zephaniah speaks of. But believe it or not, my brothers and sisters, the original written language was in simple pictures with the intent for us to lean into the spirit of Yahuwah and discern the life in these pictures. Man put the label of hieroglyphics. Man put labels, and man dressed it up and added more words, and man expounded and expanded from the pictures different words and languages. But the original written language, more specifically, the original group of words from the scriptures were pictures and symbols. Know this, O Yasharal, because man could not take control of the pictures, because man did not fully understand what the text was meaning, because of man not leaning into the spirit of Yahuah to make the words and pictures alive, man added their explanations, man added their wording, man added their language. You see, in spite of man's tampering, when the life that the Most High has for us, when the words of instruction that the Most High has for us, when we look at the text and witness it come alive, then we can see what has been distorted by man and what is indeed pure from the Almighty Father. This requires pursuit of Him, discerning Him, yielding to Him, being humble, and walking in the power and strength of His set-apart spirit working in us. My brothers and sisters, right now there are people that would have you think that Hebrew is the superior language. They would have you think that you need to pursue the Hebrew language. All too often, they may not even emphasize that there's ancient, paleo, modern, and other variants or other different languages such as Yiddish, all under the guise, all under the premise that this is the Hebrew language. Make no mistake, man is still trying to control the narrative. In other words, man is still trying to define and control what is needed to be said. Man has introduced so many different languages, so many different perceptions and interpretations of such words, compiled into a language. Many newcomers or individuals awakening to their true identity think by embracing the most widely teachings that is perceived to be Hebrew, which is really modern Hebrew, which is actually Aramaic influence. This is not the pure lip. It is not superior, nor does it represent the pure lip mentioned in Zephaniah 3rd chapter. This is far from being the truth. Many have wasted and are wasting precious time on seeking to discern what the living spirit of the Most High is saying to us in preparation for the final Exodus and pursuit of maturity in this set-apart journey. Many of us are spending countless hours under mores and teachers and influential individuals who push that they are superior, who push by their actions, even though they may not say it. I've even heard some say, well, if you don't know the Hebrew, then, I can't talk to you, or you don't fully get the understanding. But consider this. They are as a dog returning to his vomit. They are as one chasing their tails. How productive, how efficient do you think it is for someone to tell you, well, in this English passage, it actually means the Hebrew word is this, and then you say, what? The Hebrew word is this, which means that. So they take you from the English to the Hebrew, back to the English to bring clarity. Or they take you from the English to Hebrew and then claim and promote that it is much superior and more clear, only to bring you back to English. I'll mention this more as I continue. Cleaning words and language, my brothers and sisters. We will return to the basic ways of communicating. And I can assure you the pure lip will not be what you think, what you have been led to believe. In order for us to discern the set-apart words of the Almighty Father Yahuah, we must and we will grow to know what it means regarding that the letter kills and the spirit makes alive. Allow me to share the following as I continue. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 4 through 6. It reads as follows. And such trust we have towards the Almighty One through the Messiah. Not that we are competent in ourselves to reckon any matter as from ourselves, but our competence is from the Almighty One, who also made us competent as servants of a renewed covenant, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter kills, but the Spirit gives life. Let me step to the side for a minute. I've had individuals claim, Symmanayah, you use a Hebrew name, but yet you speak badly of pursuing the Hebrew language. And I challenge anyone to show me a passage of scripture where there is emphasis on pursuing the language that many are saying is Hebrew. But if you look out throughout the scriptures, my brothers and sisters, the Most High Father put emphasis on the name. There is no other name in which one can be saved, save Yahusha HaMashiach. There is no other name above any, save Yahuah, the Almighty One. For Yahusha means Yahuah saves, or Yahuah salvation. My brothers and sisters, the name is important. If you doubt this, research the slave ships. When we who were Yasharal were brought over here, we carried the name embedded, the name of Yah embedded in our names. So the name is important. The name is significant. And this would be my response to those who wonder why I use a Hebrew name and I can still speak on the language as I do. While there are those among us who may not understand what it means to be filled with the set-apart spirit of Yahusha, what it means by having the spirit of Yahuah dwell within us. In due time, we will discern what it means. We will grow to know the power and might of the Most High working in us, through us, one towards another. And as He cleans us up from the languages, from the words that we have been programmed to use, as we witness cleaning words and language, as a result of a process by the Almighty Father's refinement and promised discipline, I say to you, O Yasharal, unity will come. We will witness the process begin and intensify, for we will yield to one singular communique from the Almighty Father. We will yield to the ways and means which we must adopt and demonstrate in order to be a set apart and unified awakening nation. There is much work to be done. How do we speak in unity, my brothers and sisters, when there will be 144,000 and a great multitude? How do we speak in unity? I submit to you. I will give a mere example, but in a moment. Let me read Revelation chapter 7, verse 4, and chapter 7, verse 9 and 10. And I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 sealed out of all the tribes of the children of Yasharal. 144,000. And if you drop down to verse 9 and 10, it says, and after this I looked and saw a great crowd, which no man was able to count, out of all nations and tribes and peoples and tongues, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, dressed in white robes and palm branches in their hands, and crying out loud with a loud voice, saying, deliverance belongs to our Almighty One, who sits on the throne, and to the Lamb. My brothers and sisters, have you ever wondered, have you ever prayed regarding how such a large group, 144,000 and great multitude, will be able to communicate, though there will be so many different languages and tongues? I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, out of the life in the following, let us prayerfully understand that it is the Spirit of Yahuah who will bring us to the point where we can discern what we are saying to one another. I present to you, O Yasharal, that it is important. It is important to understand what is expected. Let me share with you Ephesians 5:25 through 27. Ephesians 5:25 through 27. It says, husbands, love your wives as Messiah also did love the assembly and gave himself for it, in order to set it apart and cleanse it. And cleanse it. And cleanse it. Yes, I'm repeating that part. Cleanse it with the washing of water by the word. You see, cleanse it by the washing of water to the word. Thus the title of this segment, Cleaning Words and Language. It goes on to say in the 27th verse, in order to present it to himself a splendid assembly, not having spot or wrinkle or any of this sort, but that it might be set apart and blameless. Let me also say to you, my brothers and sisters, cleanse it by the washing of water by the word of the Most High Father. Let me also present Ephesians chapter 6, verse 10 through 20. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 10 through 20. For it reads as follows: For the rest, my brothers, be strong in the master and in the mightiness of his strength. Put on the complete armor of the Almighty One, for you to have power to stand against the schemes of the devil. Because we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against authorities, against world rulers of darkness of this age, against spiritual matters of wickedness in the heavenlies. Because of this, take up the complete armor of the Almighty One, so that you have power to withstand in the wicked day, and having done all to stand. So that you have power to withstand in the wicked day, and having done all to stand. That's 13th verse. I'm in the 6th chapter of Ephesians. Going on to 14 through 20. Stand then, having girded your waist with truth. Truth. With truth. What is truth? Truth is the action. Truth is the demonstration of set apartness. Truth is a result of the cleaning of words and language. Truth is a reflection of the Almighty Father. And he goes on to say, having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and having fitted your feet with the preparation of the good news of peace. The preparation of the good news, preparing for the good news, receiving the good news, receiving the living instructions that Yahusha Mashiach is alive and well, and his spirit is directing our path. He goes on to say, above all, having taken up the shield of belief, with which you shall have power to quench all the burning arrows of the wicked one. Take also the helmet of deliverance and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of the Almighty One, which is the word of the Almighty One. I say to you, my brothers and sisters, the words that we have, the language we speak, when we walk in obedience, they reflect the word of the Almighty One. As we are refined, we will witness cleaning words and language, my brothers and sisters. He goes on to say, praying at all times with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, watching in all perseverance and supplication for all the set apart ones, also for me, that a word might be given to me in the opening of my mouth, that a word might be given to me in the opening of my mouth, to be bold in making known the secret of the good news, for which I am an envoy in chains, that in it I may speak boldly as I should speak. Notice he said, as the word might be given to him. You see, my brothers and sisters, we have an obligation to lean into the spirit of the Almighty Father Yahuah, send in Yahusha's name, to discern what he is saying to us, so that we can correctly speak the words, the language that he has for us, one towards another, and to the one in the mirror, of course. My brothers and sisters, as things begin to get extremely intense during these last days, it will be wise to prepare to receive what the Spirit of Yahusha Mashiach is saying to us. It will be wise to discern how we respond to words, set apart words presented to us. Since we have been programmed and conditioned to various languages, again, which consist of words, there must and will be a cleaning of words. As our words are cleaned, so will our language, and we will be made to speak in such a set apart way that will be correct and yield the unity that is necessary for our final exodus and more. If we truly envision the realities of what the Great Tribulation and other end time conditions present, then we will begin to realize the value of time itself. We will begin to realize how we must prepare to respond and communicate with each other quickly. Will there be time trying to determine which one of the languages is the pure lip? Will there be time to be scuttling about and say, taking someone from the English to the Hebrew back to the English, or taking someone from Chinese to the Hebrew back to Chinese, or taking one from French to Hebrew back to French? Will we have time to be circling and chasing our tails, arguing and debating? I think not. Now, make no mistake, my brothers and sisters. Make no mistake. I am not saying learning different languages are wrong. I am not saying trying to get close to what was the original language is wrong. But I am saying walk in wisdom. I am saying let us prioritize. I am saying that seeking the living presence of the Spirit of Yahuah to work in us and through us takes priority over all. So let us manage our time wisely as we seek to discern what is indeed the pure lip. Who is aware of the life in Colossians 4:5? It tells us, walk in wisdom towards those who are outside, redeeming the time. Let me also share the following as well. That was Colossians 4:5. Matthew 24:22 and Mark read similar, but I'll read one. Matthew 24:22 and say, and if those days were not shortened, no flesh would be saved, but for the sake of the chosen ones, those days shall be shortened. You see, my brothers and sisters, if the days are shortened, do you think we have time to be scuttling around? Do you think we have time to spend more emphasis on trying to learn and struggle and pursue what is indeed the true lip when we have a ways and means of communicating set apartness to one another? My brothers and sisters, consider this example. If you were told that the day will come or the time has arrived that there's a food shortage or that there's a famine, food shortage. If you were told that as a result of this food shortage and famine, there was massive drought, there was no water. If you was told it was coming or you witnessed it happening, would you not want to race towards where there is food still left? Would you not want to pursue fresh water and food in order to survive? Would you want to take time? So let me tell you this, O Yasharal. Would you want to say, well, let me learn how to say there's water over there in them hills and there's food around the corner. Let me see how I can tell you in Hebrew. And then I'll bring it back to English. Or if you had a choice and someone was trying to tell you where water and food was, and they had a different language, do you not think it would be more simplistic if they drew a vessel or a glass, or if they gestured their hands like a glass and tilted it towards their mouth? Would that not be a simple and basic form of communicating? If they drew a picture of a vessel or glass with water in it and an arrow pointing you to a direction, would that be much swifter and quicker? I believe so. And I believe we will witness that the pure lip is in its simplest form is a matter of pictures and symbols and gestures. It's a matter of the Almighty Father opening our hearts and spirits and mind to understand the very basics of communication is what is necessary for us to be molded together in unity as a set apart nation. My brothers and sisters, could it not be a shortage of food if there was only 2 grains of wheat, or let's just say 2 ounces of wheat, but 25 pounds of sand? Would it not be difficult to try to get to the wheat? Could not a shortage, a famine of wheat, be seen if it is overshadowed by tons of sand? Now you might say, what do I mean by that? I say to you, my brothers and sisters, as man has enlarged the vocabulary, as man has increased languages across the face of the planet, as man has added different variants of communicating, as man has put emphasis on different words and texts, these actions have overshadowed what is indeed pure and set apart. I submit to you, we have witnessed and we are witnessing the fulfillment of Amos 11 and 12. Amos 11 and 12. Consider this. It reads as follows. See, days are coming, declares Master Yahuah, that I shall send a hunger in the land, not a hunger for bread, nor a thirst for water, but for hearing the words of Yahuah. And they shall wander from sea to sea and from north to east, and they shall diligently search, seeking the word of Yahuah, but they shall not find it. I submit to you, O Yasharal, because of all the different translations, interpretations, and positions, because of all the different languages and words among men, as we are awakening, people are trying to pursue the truth. People are wandering from sea to sea, trying to find the right books, the correct books, the original scrolls, the original text. People are wandering from sea to sea, some thinking that if they go to the land of the promise, there they will find. I have seen people say, oh, you got to go to Israel. You got to go to Israel, because when you get there, it's like nothing else. The word of Yahuah is there, as though he's not everywhere at all times, contradicting what we are taught, that the Almighty Father is omnipresent, everywhere at all times. There are people who would have you believe that if you're not there, you're going to miss him, or you're going to miss out. And they fabricate a narrative that causes some to be envious or longing for the promised land. Though the promised land is something given by the Almighty Father, make no mistake, our priority is to worship and obey him. I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, while many interpret that a shortage meaning not enough, I submit to you, because of an outpouring of erroneous teachings, wrong words, wrong books, mistaken interpretations, wicked influences, and more, that the text has been overshadowed with so many evil perceptions, so many misinterpretations, so many erroneous teachings. If you take 2 grains of wheat and bury it in 25 pounds of sand, there will be a shortage. Again, I submit to you, Amos 11-12 has begun. Look around as we are awakening. People are trying to pursue what is the word from the Almighty Father. There's not much talk about how to discern, how to work and walk among one another, discerning what is true, discerning the life in the scriptures, in spite of man's tampering. Many people are purchasing different books outside of scriptures. And I'm not saying books are wrong, and I'm not saying the scriptures are wrong. But make no mistake, if you look at them word for word, all the different translations, some miss this, some miss that. Some interpret it one way, some leave out things altogether. It is because the Most High said it is his spirit that will make alive what we should know, what we should say, how we should say it among one another. My brothers and sisters, there's no doubt in my mind that there are those who are void of discerning the life in the scriptures. And as a result, they introduce books and their positions of translation and perceptions. They introduce judgment against the obedient ones who discern and echo the words from the spirit of Yahusha regarding what we must learn, what we must do, how we should act. Yes, there are those who are undiscerning, who will pass judgment, who will ridicule the prophets that are among us, the messengers, the teachers. Yes, there are chosen mores who are ridiculed by other mores who are non-discerning. Those who are indeed our brothers will receive the discipline and refinement necessary to bring about the cleaning of words and language. Those who are wolves in sheep clothing will be exposed. Pray, O Yashar'al. Our emotions and mental state, our spiritual state will prove to be challenged, but the Most High will be successful in honoring his promises to his children. Yasharal, consider this: a moray or a teacher, or even any other outspoken person who promotes that the teaching of one of the variants of what is perceived as the most language is far superior than anything else, who share with you that going from English to Hebrew only to take you back to English, who try to tell you this is the best, this is what's best for you in terms of words and communication. Such wickedness come away from. Such wickedness watch as the power and might of the Most High brings about clarity. You see, my brothers and sisters, as end time ramp up, watch and see who draws to individuals who have a clue of what we're supposed to do and where we're supposed to go and how we're supposed to govern ourselves. Watch and see how many people run to the mores, the teachers, and those who are saying, well, hold on, let's get it in the Hebrew language first, and then I'll bring it back to the English. Watch and see how, as the days are shortened, how we communicate. Watch and see how we blend into unity with people of different nations and tongues as we gesture food and drink and direction, as we demonstrate love, set apart love, emitting from the power and might of the Almighty Father Yahuah, sent in Yahusha's name. We are in for something phenomenal, O Yasharal, and let it be known that the pure lip, the pure language, is reflective of the actions, the influences of those who lean into the set-apart ways of the Almighty Father Yahuah. Be watchful, my brothers and sisters, for as things become intense, we will face extreme humbling. We will humble, and humble does not mean be passive. Humble means to gird up in the strength necessary to bring our flesh and the wickedness of the enemy into subjection to the almighty power and might of the Almighty Father Yahuah. Humbleness is being strong and firm. Humbleness brings our egos in check, puts our flesh into submission to set apartness from the Almighty Father. My brothers and sisters, I mentioned that the original language, the original words were pictures. Have you ever heard that a picture is worth 1,000 words? What would you prefer? Someone who show and demonstrate love? Someone who communicate love to you, or one who eloquently speaks? One who masters the rhetorical skills necessary to cause our ears to tingle and make us feel good. From many different languages, there are people trying to tell you that they know the right way. But what if someone is telling you wrong? What if you are in need of water and food? What if you are in need of what direction to turn in the midst of destruction that's described in the Great Tribulation? Who would you draw to? The one who can bring it to simplest form and convey the message that is necessary to move towards food and water, to move towards a safe place, to move towards the final gathering of a set-apart nation? My brothers and sisters, I was compelled to present this title, Cleaning Words and Language, for I believe the Spirit of Yahusha was directing me to inform an awakening nation that corrections will come, and they will come as a mighty wind. They will come with the power and might of his set-apart Spirit. They will come, and we will witness the process of cleaning words and language. As words are cleansed, as our language is improved, we will understand what is indeed expected of us, for there is much work to be done. Our communications from words to language, consisting of living orders and set-apart guidance from the Almighty Father, will prove to rise up in these final days. Pictures and symbols actually are representative of the pure lip, with us leaning into the Spirit and listening and discerning the voice of the Spirit of Yahusha, our teacher, our comforter. As it is written, let us discern the life in what is said to us, O Yasharal. We will return to the very basics of many things. Stuff and people and vanity. We will find ourselves leaving some and much of this behind. We will discover being brought together, both Hebrews and Gentiles, that are made one by Yahushua Mashiach, that are made one as Yasharal, a set-apart awakening nation. We will grow to understand what must and will be done, O Yasharal. Let me read to you 2 Peter, 2nd chapter, verses 20 to 22. 2 Peter, chapter 2, verse 20 to 22. It reads as follows: For if after they have escaped the defilements of the world through the knowledge of the Master and Savior Yahushua Messiah, if they are again entangled in them and overcome, the latter end is worse for them than the first. For it would have been better for them not to have known the way of righteousness than having known it to turn from the set-apart command delivered unto them. For them the proverb hath proved true: a dog returned to his own vomit, and a washed pig returns to her rolling in the mud. My brothers and sisters, a dog returning to his own vomit, or a pig returning and rolling in the mud. If this does not describe cyclical actions, see, vomit is the result of the dog eating, throwing it up, eating it again. Are we going in circles on the matter of words and language? Are we being deceived that we are pursuing something superior? In other words, my brothers and sisters, it is what the Spirit of Yahuah is making alive before us that brings about the actions, the demonstrations that will show the love, the purity, the set apartness that is necessary to reflect his ways. Again, my brothers and sisters, learning another language, leaning on other words is wicked if you are not paying attention to the Spirit of Yahuah. But to learn another language, to understand that there are different languages, that's not wrong. So I'm not saying that it's wrong to learn a language. I'm saying that many are putting the priority, many's perception of pursuing this thing called Hebrew. Many among us are being misled. Many among us are going in circles. It would be wise to seek to discern what takes priority during these final days, O Yasharal. Remember, I present to you again, Colossians 4:5. It says, walk in wisdom toward those who are outside, redeeming the time. So rise up, O Yasharal. Do not be overtaken by erroneous teachers, mores, or any other who would have you think they are more superior than you because they know a little or some form of perceived Hebrew language. Rise up, my brothers and sisters, and ask yourself, are you preparing? Are we preparing? Are we seeking to discern the life and what the Most High has to say to us to bring about actions that reflect his ways? Are we using our fellowship time to become prepared? Or are we spending more time trying to embrace what we believe is the Hebrew language? What we believe is the original language? Is this an indictment on those who are in error? Indeed it is. Is this an indictment towards those who have you think that they're doing what the Most High would have them do when they say it's more superior? Yes, it's an indictment. And I say to you, my brothers and sisters, watch as end times ramp up and see who will go and gravitate and draw to the mores and teachers who say, well, let me tell you what the Hebrew means. Well, see, the Hebrew who spend countless hours and minutes trying to convince you that they have mastered the Hebrew language. Watch and see who gravitates to those versus those who say, let us move east, let us move north, let us take this, let us leave that. Let us embrace the love and let us demonstrate what the set-apart Father is saying to us through his set-apart Spirit. Watch and see who will be leading an awakening nation. I invite each and every one of us to begin discussing how we will communicate with one another correctly and how we will communicate with others when we become face-to-face with those of different languages. You see, the basics in survival in natural life is fresh water, food, and being in a safe place. And truly, end times will prove the need for fresh water, will prove the need for food, will prove the need to move to the safe place that the Most High has promised his children. I invite each and every one of you, my brothers and sisters, to begin discussing how do we communicate? How do we listen to those who have a different language? And I can submit to you, the gesturing of a vessel, the gesturing of drinking will indeed help for water. The gesture of eating, hand to mouth, will represent food, pointing, gestures, actions. We will see a form of communication that bring about results, my brothers and sisters. Begin discussing this great paradigm awakening that is occurring for so many as we have become awakened, have fallen into the snare of thinking we need to pursue Hebrew. At one point, I thought this was the way to go. But I pursued the Most High. I prayed. I believe I was drawn by him and him alone. I believe he brought clarity that is reflective of the messages that I present before you, O Yasharal. Cleaning words and language represents a process, an ongoing process that brings our communication and set-apartness into oneness according to the Most High. Our words, our language will be cleaned. In other words, my brothers and sisters, we will learn when to be quiet, when to shut up, when to speak softly, when to speak out, when to speak boldly, when to stand as a tree planted by the rivers of water. We will understand the meaning of such dynamics. I am compelled to believe, O Yasharal, because many mores and teachers or other influential individuals who cannot discern how unity will come to be, they tend to make up a narrative. They tend to dismiss the words of the obedient of the Spirit of Yahusha. They tend to reject and reflect and repel those who are discerning, those who are obedient. Will there be mores that are teachers that are chosen? Yes, they are. Will there be mores who will be humbled and corrected and lean more into set apartness opposed to trying to battle and state their case on what they believe is the Hebrew language? Watch, my brothers and sisters. The biggest of obstacles will be removed, whether it be in sickness and in death, or whether it be in us opening our eyes and just coming away from them. How can one lead a group if there is no group? How can one be recognized as a teacher if there is no one to be taught? You see, my brothers and sisters, we empower such wickedness if our eyes are open, but we still yield to them as our leader, as our teacher. And they're promoting something that is erroneous. Pray, O Yasharal. This is end times. The realities of the set apart one are before us. The realities of what is expected are before us. The need to understand how to manage and govern and redeem the time and wisdom is now. Proof will come, my brothers and sisters. Proof will well up like a flowing water, a flowing stream, like a fountain streaming to those who are drawn by the Almighty Father, to those who are chosen to fulfill the final exodus, and much more during end times. Yasharal, oh Yasharal, there is much work ahead of us. Ready or not, the powerful hand of Abba Yahuah's discipline is about to become extremely intense. Our emotions, our mental state, our spiritual state will be challenged, but will be disciplined, will be refined, and we will witness the end product from the promises of the Most High. Be encouraged, my family. Our redemption comes, and we will shout hallelujah as we discover day by day the realities that are ahead pertaining to his set apart ways, this set apart journey, and our appointment to him. If you have listened to this entire recording from beginning to end, I, Symmanayah, I salute your patience. I salute that you had the strength, the fortitude, and desire to pursue what is indeed set apart. I salute your ability to commit these words to prayer and discern whether or not they are indeed of the Almighty Father Yahuah through Yahusha HaMashiach's Spirit working within me. My prayer is for Yasharal to grow in discernment and recognize living instruction, recognize the living presence of the Almighty Father Yahuah, recognize that he, through his set-apart Spirit sent in Yahusha's name, is indeed teaching in us, comforting us, and bringing about the liberty, the freedom from the strongholds that would weigh us down. My prayer to you, O listener, is that we witness the unity that is necessary. Until next time, be of good health, be of good cheer. Our redemption is coming, and it is coming sooner than we intend or expect. Until next time, my brothers, my sisters, my family, let us continually walk in pursuit of worshiping and obeying the Almighty Father. Let us continue to recognize that a set-apart nation is indeed awakening under the banner of Yasharal. Until next time, I bid you, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom.